I often laugh at the same old YouTubers that do this sort of content every single day. Surely they've run out of picks now, right? However, I'm going to do something a little bit different. These are based on the top 50 coins of a very reliable metric. We're going to look at what the performance of an altcoin is versus Bitcoin. So Bitcoin dominance is currently really, really high. Therefore, there's potential opportunities here. This will determine, is it Bitcoin season or is it altcoin season? Currently, it's still Bitcoin season. Therefore, these assets that I'm going to focus on are pretty useful. I will reveal at the end of this video the list of coins that are currently outperforming and obviously underperforming Bitcoin. Like every video though that I do, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research. I am not your mum, and please wipe your bottom accordingly. So before we go anywhere, I need to show you why this price metric is important. Ethereum Classic could be a option, but I'm not going to cover it much. However, what I'm going to cover is this. This is the price, right? So what we're looking at here, is it doing well or not, right? Currently, this is at 1.9% versus the market, right? However, people get confused. I did a video about all this in this bit here. You can see it, right? Now, that's important. You need to watch that video. There's going to be a link to that at the end of the video. So stick around, because when you watch this video, then you go over and watch that video, it'll be like, oh, wow, this makes sense, right? You've been taught wrong. So this is important. So if Bitcoin doubles in price and this remains there, for example, that's going to be double the price. If, however, this doubles or triples in price, i.e. it's worth more in Satoshi value, and Bitcoin stays stable, that will also be double, triple the price, if that makes sense. So when you look at every asset that you've got in your life, they all have a BTC pair. So let's look at Polkadot, for example, right? This is currently worth whatever price it is here. Now, in the past, it was worth a lot more, just the way it is, right? So, as I say, some things will look very, very crazy, but every single price that you see here in terms of the market capitalization and the supply and all that kind of stuff, there's also a price in Bitcoin. If you put that price or that number into the likes of, any sort of calculator that will go USD to Bitcoin, it will give you the current USD price. So we are looking at stuff that is majorly underperforming versus Bitcoin. This is important. If anything I just said is totally alien to you, check out Patreon or go to Learning Crypto. There's a community there that'll help you. Also, as I say, watch the video at the end. So the first one that we're going to cover is ARB. Do I need to explain any further? Look at that. Majorly running away from the market. It's not looking good. But we talk about this as undervalued because this is low. This is the lowest it's been, right? This is looking pretty damn good. Not a bad asset, ultimately, but you can see how drastically this has dropped. There is token emissions involved in this. This is probably one of the main reasons why, but eventually it will settle down. Just to give you some context on that, you can see here it's still a 3.8 billion market cap coin. It's still ranked 32, and you can see the supply is changing. So yes, there's a lot of dilution here, 14.6 billion, but that will eventually at some point stabilize. When you look at the likes of the USD price, it doesn't look too bad, but versus Bitcoin, there's potential gains there. Another one of a similar sort of ilk is OP. This has really nosedived in literally, when you look at the peak of 2020, well, the end of 2023 into 2024, it's massively nosedived. Again, we talk about similar sort of situations here. Look, it looks relatively stable in the USD chart. BTC pair, no. This, again, 3 billion market cap, rank 45, but again, we've got total and circulating supply only 23% right now, full dilution roughly around 13 billion. So there is a potential situation here where you may well get a good valued hit, and there's still light at the end of the tunnel there because they're solid assets, and over time, layer 2s and all kinds of stuff like that, scaling solutions may well get used due to the situations of potential retail coming into the market. So it may not be all as bad, but there is a short opportunity of window where you can get a very, very nice order, in my opinion. Injective. The next one, okay, this is an interesting one. Look at the drop here. Now, in the USD prices, Injective actually doesn't look too bad. It's kind of ranging. This is over the last day. Over the last month, it has came down a little bit from $50, but it actually, since like the end of March, it's actually been between 40 and 35, give or take, around that number. Now currently 33. So not bad, but as I say, and as you've just noted, that it looks horrible. This is what level I've kind of highlighted on like my technical videos on Patreon, around here. It's going towards that level. That is a massive drawdown, by the way. That is a value drop of 55%, just saying. So yeah, as much as people rate it, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity and an asset, it is a $3 billion asset coin now. Most of the supply is out on here, but in terms of the BTC pair, it's got smashed over the last month and 2 months. It's got smashed. It's down 55%. Now, Matic, not looking good, is it? This is slowly melting. Not looking great. But again, we're looking at potential opportunities here. From the high here, from February, it is down a severe amount. But what's scary is when you look at the USD prices, look at the last year, it's not looking too shabby, but as you can see, it's not really moved. But this, again, we're looking at an obvious coin here. It's 99% supply out, but the problem is, and I highlighted this yesterday in my Patreon video, there's a lot more competition now. The reason why this stood incredibly well in the previous cycle was because nothing was out. You know, it was the first thing. So when we talk about that, there's potential opportunity here. Now, the element here is big caps tend to move at some point. They always do. They've got network effect. They're the obvious pick. It's a good place to put their profit, right? When people start looking at the old BTC pairs and you notice that, you think, wow, there's an opportunity to grow some BTC here. It will not fly to the moon, but ultimately it may well bounce and it might well show as undervalued on a lot of markers. That's when we get alt seasons, right? So for me, when we look at Matic, wow, that is tremendous value in my opinion. So you may well notice that that might fly at some point. This happened in the previous cycle with the likes of Cardano. You know, things just eventually they flow into it and then off they go. It is pretty scary. Ethereum did the same thing too. That brings me perfectly onto Cardano. Now, not really doing much, is it? Well, there's a reason for that, and let me show you why. It is currently lagging massively. Fantastic community, network effect is there, product is out, proof is in the pudding. This probably will move. And in terms of returns and gains from this level, and if it shoots up, it could 2-3x. And when we talk about 2-3x, that could mean it could go back up to 60, well, from 60 to, 100, $1.8, right? If Bitcoin goes to 100K, that obviously going to make it into the $2.5, $3 levels anyways. Cardano looks like a very, very obvious pick if you are looking for a high cap coin with proof in the pudding network effect at these low levels. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, looks relatively good, right? I'm just waiting for the abuse now. Polkadot. This is kind of what it looks like over time. Yeah, a big accumulation level, you could argue. But its BTC pair isn't looking good. It's not as bad as some. Weirdly, it isn't as bad as some. But you can see. Again, Polkadot 2.0 is coming out very, very soon. I say very, very soon. A couple of months' time by the looks of it. Certainly, if you look at the proposal and what's going on other networks, it's looking relatively close. But there's a massive situation here where this, in my opinion, looks undervalued versus some of the competition, right? When we talk about marketing, when we talk about the treasury and all the issues it's got, they will eventually iron out. As much as I like to whinge about it, they will iron out. In terms of the technology and the utility and the use case of 2.0 versus 1, it is chalk and cheese. Like, if you go and do your research, you'll find out why. So that looks like a good value proposition for a potential bounce when that releases, and it may well shoot back up to certain nice levels. If it does, I expect a lot of apologies. If it doesn't, yeah, I own that shit. That's fine. Doesn't bother me. Reality is, though, I think a lot of people think that DOT is complex versus preconceived ideas. It's not. Not anymore. Not anymore. Nowhere near. Yeah, there's some elements that are pain in the ass, don't get me wrong, but the 2.0 element will make it a little bit more agile and more user-friendly. That is the main the main point of what's going to be changing in the future, certainly when it comes to parachains. So when I look at that, on that level, that looks ridiculous. If that shoots back up to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 Satoshis, it's pretty good, right? Tron. Now, I don't think I've really spoken much about Tron in my career as a YouTuber. But ultimately, it looks interesting. It is down versus BTC, certainly over the last couple of months. It's currently sat here. In terms of the USD prices over the last year, it's not been too bad. It's been quite steady, but it still is undervalued versus, obviously, the rest of the market, obviously versus BTC. But as I say, not as cataclysmically bad. Even if we're talking from the start of, February time to here, yeah, it's down 40%. But some assets are down 50, 60, 70%, which is crazy. So Tron looks very, very interesting. Certainly at a level of interest. It could lose that level though, so just be mindful. But we are trading at levels of like 2022 here nearly, which is staggering. And overall, it's a relatively good network, right? Even though I'm not the biggest lover of Justin Sun, just saying. Now we're talking about Chainlink. Chainlink isn't as terrible, but not great. It is underperforming versus BTC. In terms of the USD pairs over the last year, okay, not doing too bad, but not perfect. Looks like a very, very good offer here. Certainly when we look at these levels, obviously look at these levels here from 2022, but from the start of the year to now, we are down roughly 46%. That's a huge drawdown, and it's looking relatively nice. So there could be a nice little order here. A lot of buzzy words around real world assets, obviously oracles and stuff like that. So it's not looking too bad, but yeah, I don't think it'll ever reach those DeFi summer highs again of 2020, just saying, but there's definitely some room for improvement here, so it looks like a good level to look at. Almost at the end now. We are at Avax. Avax is looking relatively good. It's currently in a massive drawdown, certainly versus the top of the year, essentially. Made this obvious lower high, and then are we going to melt down to these levels? Could be some good value proposition there. When we look at the likes of the USD prices over the course of last year, again, it's actually been one of the better performing ones in terms of when you look at it. Obviously, yes, over the last few months, it hasn't gone great. But when you start thinking, well, Bitcoin's done a massive run and it has kind of slowed down, well, obviously, yes. Not many things have kept up with Bitcoin, though, which I will show you towards the end of this video which ones have. However, the fundamentals are clear. This isn't a bad asset. Most of the supply is slowly getting dribbled out anyway, so it's not doing too bad. Full dilution, though, is 33 billion, so just be mindful of that bit. But bull market, people, crowds, Avax might do well. And the last one is ICP. ICP has had a great year in USD for obvious reasons, with obviously Bitcoin doing well. People have stood out, noticed it, and it's actually recovered some of its stuff. The problem you got is the supply elements are a bit of a pain in the ass. This came out at a horrible time as well, so it might actually do a lot better. When we look at the BTC pair, though, when we look at the course of like the start of the year to now, it is down a 40% level. Obviously, from launch, it's down significantly more, by the way, just saying. So be mindful of that. But ICP, to me, it is undervalued versus, obviously, BTC. It has been struggling for the last couple of weeks now. But the reality is, most things are. It's just the way it is. So in terms of this, there's 10 altcoins there that are massively obvious to pick that could bolster your portfolio and make it a little bit safer versus some meme coins and altcoins and other stuff. But there's massive room to grow there, in my opinion. So let's have a look at the full-on list. This is the top 50 performance over the last 90 days in terms of BTC. You can see where the lows are of certain assets. Now, some assets, as I said, and I said at the start of this video, there's about 30 of them that are underperforming BTC right now. These are the lists. So feel free to pause it, have a little look. And yeah, there's all kinds on here. Even Ethereum, as I say, ICP, Avax, you got Hedra, CAS, you've got Ethereum Classic, you've got XLM, Atom, XRP, kind of obvious XRP, but you've also got other ones in the red that are majorly down, right? We are currently in a beautiful looking BTC season, and we're not really in an alt season yet. So it's one of those, we have got to be patient. If the BTC dominance does drop and starts to drop and starts to top out, we will start to see some nice movement, and eventually these will start flipping over Bitcoin, and then the market will run. That's where all the profits are, right? So if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. Massively appreciated. Let's get to over 1,000 likes, as it's always awesome to hit that number. And yeah, feel free to watch a video that's coming up about mistakes to avoid in terms of why you should be buying altcoins when dominance is high.